What's up, hobby friends? My name is Casey and welcome back to another miniature rescue. Today, we're gonna make something extra special. Space rats. The Skaven faction for Warhammer Fantasy have been some of my all-time favorite models to paint, as well as play on the table. They are to the Age of Sigmar universe what orcs are for 40K, so in a nutshell, probably just the best faction you could pretty much play. I love the comical aspect of Ratmen fighting with improvised weapons about as much as I like the orky scrap build stuff. The problem though, there are plenty of orcs to choose from in Age of Sigmar, but no rats to play in Warhammer 40K. Why? Why wouldn't there be? If the Imperium of Man can survive, why couldn't the rats? Oh boy.
Yeah. Rats in space is dumb.
Why? Orcs in space? Tyranids? Come on.
Well, actually, they were originally in the lore for 40K, but they got retconned into something else to fit the narrative at the time. And actually, they are dumb. Rats are really dumb.
Just take that can't do attitude and leave it at the door, please.
I am at the door. Well, don't make me come through it. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna say it right now. Games Workshop, where are my space rats? We need hyper-intelligent warp lightning writing rats. And for the record, if orcs can figure out space travel, then realistically we need rats in space, cats in space, and killer space whales, in no particular order. So yeah, space Skaven aren't real, but that certainly hasn't stopped people from trying to incorporate them into this game. In doing even a little bit of research, I found an incredible amount of amazing conversions that bring the Skaven faction right into Warhammer 40K, and I've gotta say, they're pretty awesome. That brings us to this week's model, and the plan to get that model into space. This is a Skaven Warlock Bombardier. I picked this up on eBay a while back for about 12 bucks. It has some paint on it, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape. I want to take this model and start working on my very own Adeptus Radicus army. Now there are a few requirements for this type of conversion. First, it has to be stupid, because it won't work if it isn't. And second, it has to be over the top, for the same reason as the first requirement, because it's stupid. But what do those things do for us in the end? Well, hopefully it makes something bombastic and ridiculous, which makes a lot of sense for spacefaring rat people. The first thing we need to do is clean this model and get him prepped so we can start making some conversion decisions. I'll give him a quick bath in my sonic cleaner, which is filled with LA's Totally Awesome, and make sure he's nice and clean. I only put the model in the cleaner for about 15 minutes, and with a little bit of scrubbing with a toothbrush, all that paint comes right off. Now, I've touched on this topic before, quite a while ago, but still, it's worth bringing up. For those who aren't in the know, Warplock Giselles in Age of Sigmar are a pretty brutal unit, and for a long time, they've been insanely overpriced on the used market. So many cunning hobbyists have taken to converting their own versions of these models. And while there are better versions of this conversion out there, these half space rats were something that I found to be really efficiently converted to fit the need for more Giselles. A basic arm swap to get a rifle, and there you go. Something that makes sense and can still be played in Warhammer. Of course, the side effect is that these are Mechanicus troops with rat heads, so technically you could play them in 40K as such, but they do lack the 40K-ness that would really make them a full conversion from one game system to the other. That's about as far as I got with these, and I didn't really think of the possibilities. Today, we're going big. So let's take a look at some bits and see what kind of stupid over-the-top thing we can turn this guy into. Mainly, I'm looking for guns. Something that we can merge with the existing tech on the model. Luckily, the backpack he's got on is already very techy, so I think we can merge the ideas together with something like a flamer or a las cannon or whatever. Then we might actually have something on our hands. I picked out a few contenders and started dry fitting them on the model to get a sense of where his arm will need to be and how much the gun could attach to the existing points of contact. And there it was, the perfect gun for the job, a nicely over-the-top stupid gun. Of course, this is just the beginning. From there, I cut up the little missile launcher he had and integrated it into the larger gun. This way we still keep the idea of the model alive while bringing him into the future. For the most part, there were pretty clean joins on each piece, and if something ended abruptly, I tried to hide that by placing a smaller bit next to it, and that made it feel more like those pieces belonged together as one cohesive unit. As long as the lines flow relatively well, we can get away with quite a few bits of weirdness. Okay, so the gun is looking pretty cool. Time to get everything primed and start laying down some color. The main thing I wanted to focus on is keeping this model pretty bright. Normally with Skaven models, I go with a lot of greens and browns, it's pretty dark, which work fine in fantasy, but for cyber rats, I think these colors are going to create a sense that they're really in the future. This is a different type of rat. Teal and pink are a great choice for that cyberpunk feel and should fit that bombastic nature of warp rats really well. So we'll start with a nice teal for the cloak. I mixed green and blue golden high flow to lay down over the white zenithal I gave the model. This paint is very transparent and should give us a nice gradient of color to start with. I also exaggerated the white a little bit and put quite a bit more on top so that the color would get noticeably darker towards the bottom of the model. A lot of this is going to be hidden behind the gun, even if we hadn't made it bigger, but the top portion of the model will most definitely be seen on the table. You're looking kind of down on it. So brighter on top, darker on the bottom. It also just looks more dramatic that way and plays into that theme. A bit of that golden high flow mixed in with the light teal from Army Painter air paints, and we get a nice step up in color and saturation. This only goes onto the shoulders and a little bit on the wispy bits of cloth hanging off of the model, still trying to create that exaggerated gradient. There's some nice smoke coming from the top of his backpack, as well as some really nice lightning, so those are going to be fluorescent pink. I did the same thing with the white ink on those parts, and the pink I'm using is part of that high flow line from Golden, so it picks up that gradient in much the same way. Already a very nice combo of colors. Alright, so it's time to fill in the metallics. I'm going for a kind of neutral steel gray, that way it doesn't clash with the colors, and we have a little room for some highlights at the end. Normally for Skaven, I like to go with copper and patina, but in this case I think a clean look will work better for the story that we're trying to tell. And while the orangey copper would probably work well with the teal and pink, I don't want to add a third main color. Having the two colors already is a lot, and I don't want to throw off the vibe with orange. The skin is up next, and I'll take care of that with some light flesh tone. I want to add some color to the skin later, but as a base tone, this should work pretty well for rat skin. If only they made a paint specifically for rat skin. Yeah. The cloak on the model is looking pretty good already, but I really want to push the highlights on the cloth where we're going to see it the most. Adding a bit of that ivory to the teal I made, I want to blend that color in to make these folds stand out. This is always a pretty nerve-wracking thing to do over an airbrushed layer. If you go too bright too quickly, you can create stark lines that stand out in the wrong way. So I like to start with the closest thing to the base color that I can get and slowly add thin layers with progressively more of whatever the highlight color is. In this case, I'm adding a little bit of ivory, but also a little bit of that light teal as well. Keeping it thin and doing multiple passes should keep it looking pretty smooth and hopefully do the trick. But I'm feeling pretty good about those blends. I don't always get those right, but this time I feel like they got there, and that's pretty awesome. The armor will get a coat of quick wash with Tamiya panel liner. This will darken it down a little bit and blackline the panels and bolts. Then it's all going to get an edge highlight of a lighter metallic to help it stand out. So here we are, coming to the end of this model, but not the end of the story. I want to officially petition Games Workshop to make Skaven a playable race in Warhammer 40K. I even made an actual petition for you to sign. The link will be in the description and pinned as the top comment. Sign the petition today and help GW realize the potential of space rats. And also don't forget to share it on Twitter and Facebook so we can get this thing kind of going for real. I think we can do it. Of course, this is all in good fun, but it would be really great to see the army get a futuristic upgrade. There are so many elements that already exist that could easily be brought into the 41st millennium, and I feel like the time is right. Until Games Workshop does something about it though, we can only imagine what space rats would look like, which brings its own unique look to the models we already have. Here's my take on the Warlock Bombardier. The colors give him that cyberpunk feel while still being pretty clean. The gun, of course, is absolutely stupid, and I love it. This feels like the proper over-the-top space rat that I wanted, and I'm super happy with how he turned out. Thank you again for joining me on another miniature rescue. If you like something about this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, as it really helps out the channel. Once again, my name is Casey, and I will see you in the next video.
Experience.